Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute since my last upload, almost a year now I think, but anyway I'm back. As you can see here, I'm gonna talk about Megadeth. Megadeth was my favorite band in high school and early university years. I know every album by them by heart, so I decided to share my thoughts and feelings about their discography. I already talked about some of these records previously on the channel, if you watched my favorite albums of the 90s series, but I never talked about their discography. So I decided to do this because they recently released their latest studio album, apparently the last one, self-titled in January, I believe. So as you can see, I'm not doing my usual thing. I decided to go with a tier list, everyone's favorite. I tried to be brief and not make this video way too long as I usually do. So I will not go in chronological order, so I'm gonna talk from my least favorite Megadeth album to my favorite record. And let's start off with this garbage. Super Collider, the only Megadeth record that I actively despise, and I even have it on CD. I hate this album cover, I hate the music on it, and I listened to this one a lot when it came out because I bought it, so why not give it a go, give it a chance. But the more I listened to it, the more I thought it sucked. There's only like one and a half decent song here, like the opener track Kingmaker, which has some similar feel to Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath in that galloping riff. The title track, the butt rock track on this album is actually my guilty pleasure song. I do not mind that one, even though the lyrics are horrendous. The music itself is not that good, but there's something about it that I enjoy, and it's, like I said, my guilty pleasure. I know everyone hates this one. I hate the music video, I hate the lyrics and everything, but I don't know, I kind of dig it. This is the second album with David Allison since 13 when he came back, and at this point they've been releasing albums every 2 years, and they became kind of stale. Nothing interesting was happening. The songs on this record in particular are boring, stupid at points. I don't know, I just hate it. I hate the cover of Thin Lizzy's Cold Sweat. I hate the one with that douchebag David Raymond from Disturbed, Dance in the Rain, whatever it's called. Overall, there's nothing much I can say about this record because it is bad. I don't like the production on it, and this is the last album with Chris Broderick on guitars. I think he had enough as well because he won't be back on the next one. But yeah, and I'm gonna share some of my favorite tracks. Usually I'm gonna do 3, but here I can only say Kingmaker, and that's about it. So yeah, let's go to the next one. And then the next one will be not Risk, I will tell you that much, and that is The World Needs a Hero. And I do not hate this one. I think World Needs a Hero is like Rust in Peace compared to Super Collider. So there are a couple of tracks here that are great, and the rest not so much. And this was supposed to be like a comeback record after Risk, and but it's not that. There are a couple of gems here, like I said, like Dread and Fugitive Mind. I like Disconnect. I even like the sequel, Return to Hangar. I think it's fine-tuned. Recipe for Hate, Warhorse. There are a bunch of tracks here that I actually hate, like Promises. It's a cheesy song. Moto Psycho is like a butt rock kind of track with stupid lyrics. When is, I think, their longest song, like 9 minutes long, and it's basically a snooze fest combination of Call of Cthulhu by Metallica and Am I Evil by Diamond Head. This is the only album with Al Pitrelli on guitars, and I think he was and is a good guitar player. I do enjoy their live album from this era, Rude Awakening. I love it, but the album itself is kind of bad. Yeah, World Needs a Hero, the title track, is cheesy as hell, but yeah, even that is better than Super Collider, so it's not that trash, but it's not that good either. So my favorite tracks here are Dread and Fugitive Mind, Return to Hangar, and Disconnect. I do enjoy that one. Next one. Well, I'm gonna go with their latest studio album, self-titled one. I was skeptical. I actually, when the first single came out, Tipping Point, I was like, well, this is not that bad. But when I heard I Don't Care, I was like, what the fuck is this? It has a nice music to it. It's kind of punkish vibe to it, but the lyrics are atrocious and written like a edgy 16-year-old kid, and I don't like that one bit. Then we have another cheesy one, Let There Be Shred, but in that one, at least it's not as cheesy. It's kind of cute if you want to look at it like that. The album is all over the place. It is not as fast and as previous two. There are a lot of tracks, slower tempo tracks that reminds me a bit of Euthanasia and Cryptic Writings, but not as good, obviously. Puppet Parade is a solid song, and the closing track, The Last Note, I think would be a great send-off for the band and the proper closing track, but instead they decided to do something completely different and end the album with a bonus track, the cover of Ride the Lightning by Metallica. After all these years, he just can't let go. And the cover itself, musically, it's good, but vocally, I think it sounds horrible. I don't like it. I hate it. I never want to listen to it ever again. The problem that I have with this record, besides the songs not being that memorable and catchy, is usually in every Megadeth album there is at least one good, catchy, hooky song. Here, not so much, and the production, I think the guitars and the drums are kind of thin compared to the vocals, so Mustaine vocals come in front, and I mean, he went through a lot with his health and everything, and he's like 65 or 64, I don't know, so his vocals are not as good as they were used to. I mean, he never had some kind of a great vocals, but for Megadeth it worked. So anyway, I think this album is just okay, mediocre album. I don't like it that much, so yeah, it's gonna be in okay tier. And next one, I know some of you will hate me for this, but I really am not a fan of these recent Megadeth albums, like The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. That title is stupid, and there are some good songs here. I think the first half of the record is, you know, where the good songs are, and the second half is where it all kind of falls off. Bunch of filler tracks, but I have one thing to say. I think Dick Vibrunen, or however you pronounce his name, is fantastic on drums. He reminds me a bit, his drumming style reminds me a bit of Gar Samuelson, which I really do like. He played only on 2 Megadeth records, the first 2, but anyway, I think he was definitely the highlight on the record. We have Kiko Laurerio on guitars. I think he also did a great job. There are some good tracks here, like the opener, the title track, Dogs of Chernobyl. Night Stalkers, it would be a good song if it was kind of put together better, because it's like 6, almost 7 minutes long, and it kind of drags on a bit. There are a bunch of cheesy songs here that I don't like and like junky. I think the production of this album is actually good. I like how hard it sounds, the drums especially. The drumming is spectacular on this record, and the only reason I come back to this one, but it's way too long. There are, like I said, a bunch of filler tracks here. I like the cheesy one, Mission to Mars. I think that's the song that showcased Dave's ability to write catchy songs. I mean, even though the lyrics and everything is cheesy, but I cannot deny it's catchy. I like the chorus, and the second part, the closing part of the song, is kind of goes on forever. But anyway, I think that song is not that bad. We'll Be Back is fine. So yeah, overall, I think it is definitely a step down. So yeah, I think it's just okay. Next one. 13. This is the first album after David Allison came back after how many years? 10 years or so, or 9 years or so. Well, like I mentioned, they were releasing albums every 2 years, and at this point you can already tell they kind of were running out of ideas, because like half of the songs here were already recorded previously. So they use like New World Order and Millennium of the Blind that were demos on Euthanasia era, and you can hear some of these songs on the extended edition of Euthanasia and Hidden Treasures, I believe. We had Black Swan, which was a B-side from United Abominations. We have Sudden Death, which was released, I think, as Guitar Hero promo or something like that previously. There was a couple of decent songs beside those tracks, because I do love Black Swan, and I like New World Order and Millennium of the Blind. Never That, I think it's a good song. I like the closing track, I think 13, but they decided to put a couple of tracks here just to fill up the track list to be, 13. Don't care about this record in general, never go back to it as much, but like I said, there are a couple of tracks that I like. New World Order, Black Swan, and I do like We the People, so yeah, it's gonna be on OK tier. Okay, now it's time for Risk. Yes, I have it at OK tier. As I mentioned previously, if you watch my videos, 10 albums people hate that I love, Risk was one of them. And I was even debating to put it in great, but I don't think it is a great record. I don't think it's a terrible record. I think it's actually okay record. And I do admire when bands try to do things like this and kind of go wild and experiment and do something completely different. And I think that this album would sell much better if Megadeth name wasn't stamped on it. So this album follows the similar fate of Metallica's Load and Reload, and it's often considered by fans as their worst record, which, like I said, disagree. Megadeth has worse records than Risk, as I already mentioned. Cryptic Writing sales were pretty good, so they continued with that similar sound and making this one even more accessible and even more commercial sounding. And the Breadline, the song Breadline, is actually the epitome of that. It is, you would never thought that can be a Megadeth song. Totally radio-friendly song, and this album is more hard rock and classic rock than anything else. I do love Wanderlust. Wanderlust, like, it's a combination of Fleetwood Mac song and Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive. Insomnia has industrial dark tone, same as Doctor Is Calling. I can definitely see why many Megadeth fans hated this one. It has more, like I said, classic rock, hard rock, butt rock feel to it. Crush 'Em is a funny little tune that with its almost disco kind of beat and arena rock vibe to it. I don't mind it, and the video is hilarious with Jean-Claude Van Damme. But anyway, I think this album is overhated because it is not the classic Megadeth sound. I do not mind this one bit, actually. I think it is pretty nice, and there are a couple of songs here that I come back to often, like Wanderlust, Prince of Darkness, and I do love Ecstasy as well. So yeah, Risk goes here. Next one. Well, people are gonna hit me with this, but I'm gonna go with Dystopia. I know everyone tends to put this one much higher, and I don't mind that, but I wasn't the biggest fan when this came out. I mean, it is definitely miles ahead of Super Collider, that's apparent. And there are a bunch of great tracks here, but overall, on the album itself, it kind of drags on a bit. There are a couple of songs that I don't like at all, like the closing track. I'm not the biggest fan of Poisonous Shadows, but there are a couple of songs here that kind of remind me of old school Megadeth, like the beginning of Fatal Illusion. After that bass intro, I think this great riff. I do like Dystopia, the title track, the one that got in a Grammy.
Dystopia, Megadeth, yes!
The production is pretty good, and I think overall the album sounds fresh compared to what they did before the release of this one. Especially in 2010s, they were kind of out of steam, so they had a longer break after Super Collider, and they kind of did it with this one. They were back on track. Favorite tracks on Dystopia are the title track, Fatal Illusion, and Lying in the State. Next one, we have United Abominations from 2007. This is another great album that follows System Has Failed. This one has great first half. The middle part of the record is kind of there are a bunch of filler tracks there, and it ends off on a high note with Burnt Ice. Here we have brothers Glenn and Sean Drover on lead guitar and drums. To me, this album is a continuation of System Has Failed in a way. They kind of go back to their thrash roots, as it is apparent from the first song on the record, Sleepwalker, and then we have my favorite song on this record, Washington Is Next, which is a fantastic song, and that main riff of that song is actually first being used on their tour in 2001 when they played She-Wolf, extended version of She-Wolf, and as you can hear on their Rude Awakening live album from the era, you can actually hear that intro riff of Washington Is Next being played on that song. So I was glad when I first heard Washington, I was like, I kind of know this riff, and I went back and listened to Rude Awakening and listened to She-Wolf, and yeah, definitely he reused that riff and used it to make a proper song, which is a great song. The title track has a bit of cheesy lyrics, but I think it's a very good song. Gears of War as well. Never Walk Alone has a similar riff like Vortex from Cryptic Writings. I like that one as well. Atulemon, the re-recorded version with Christina Scabia from Lacuna Coil, is, in my honest opinion, unnecessary. Even though I like Christina Scabia and her vocals, I think the song itself kind of lost its soul, so to say, compared to the original one, so I think it was unnecessary. You're Dead, Blessed Are the Dead, and the cheesy one, America Stan, are all mediocre filler songs, but Burnt Ice, the closing track, I think is phenomenal. It ends on with a banger, so yeah, I think United Abominations is a great record. My favorite tracks are Washington Is Next, Burnt Ice, and United Abominations title track. Okay, next one. Next one, I'm gonna go with The System Has Failed, and that one is going in great tier. System Has Failed was the first Megadeth record I heard in full. I was into Megadeth in 2005. System Has Failed was released in 2004, and this is the first album without David Ellefson on bass after their lawsuit and everything. This was supposed to be David Mustaine's solo record, but the record label insisted to put Megadeth name on it, so it became Megadeth. It is just Dave Mustaine with session musicians, but one of the musicians here was Chris Poland on guitars, and you can tell because the guitars here and solos are awesome. Chris Poland is definitely my second favorite Megadeth guitarist, only behind Marty. So I really do love his sound and his style, and he definitely showcased that on this record, which has a ton of great songs. And I was even debating putting it in amazing tier, but there are a couple of filler tracks as usual, but I think for as a comeback record after Risk, this is definitely a proper comeback. And I think there are a bunch of great tracks here, like Kick the Chair, Blackmail the Universe, Back in the Day, which has that Flesh of the Blade kind of feel to it from Iron Maiden. I love Something That I'm Not. The Scorpion is totally a banger here. Truth Be Told is good. So yeah, I think overall this album is pretty solid from start to finish, and some of my favorite tracks here are The Scorpion, Kick the Chair, and Blackmail the Universe. Next one I have Cryptic Writings from 1997. This one is kind of interesting because I had it lower in my head, at least previously before I started doing this, but as I listened to it, I was like, this album is actually quite good, and it continued the band's progression toward a more commercial sound. Dave kind of followed Metallica on this. They did Load and Reload and everything, and he went to do Cryptic Writings, and after this Risk. This is really a solid record from start to bottom, and this is the last one to feature classic lineup, so the last one with Nick Menza, who will be kind of fired after this record, just a couple of months after its release. Rust is obviously maybe the most well-known track on here. It was nominated for Grammys, and obviously there are a couple more radio-friendly songs like Almost Honest, Use the Man, but not as bad as people will tell you. There are still some heavy tunes on here like The Disintegrators, Fight for Freedom, which definitely sounds similar to Motorbread by Metallica. She-Wolf, also a banger. I like Vortex. Mastermind has a really cool riff, and Secret Place is a fantastic song. I do really enjoy that one a lot. My favorite tracks are A Secret Place, The Disintegrators, and Vortex. So overall, I think this album is really good and underappreciated maybe. Yeah. Next one I have So Far So Good So What from 1988. This is the first and only album with Jeff Young on guitars and Chuck Baylor on drums. And the biggest problem I have with this record is not the songs themselves, because this album is full of great songs that could be even better if the production was better. But they used a lot of money for this record on drugs, as they did previously, but this one suffered the most. Like I said, the production is horrendous. Some of these songs you barely hear the riffs, like on Mary Jane, which in my opinion is a great song, but you can barely hear what's happening. You can hear Mustaine screaming from somewhere. The remastered editions kind of improve the sound a bit, but the original one is horrendous. There are a bunch of great songs here. I really do love The Opener, Into the Lungs of Hell, Set the World of Fire. Great tracks. Hook and Mouth, also fantastic. In My Darkest Hour, obviously a classic song. Mary Jane, I like a lot. And like I said, it would be a much better record and much higher on my list if the production was better. So yeah, my favorite tracks here: In My Darkest Hour, Mary Jane, and Hook and Mouth. Okay, now we're gonna go to Amazing tier, and the first one is gonna be Endgame. Yeah, Endgame to me is their best kind of modern era post 90s Megadeth record. I think it's fantastic from start to finish, apart from maybe one or two songs, but anyway, this one is the first one with Chris Broderick on guitars, and the instrumental opener dialectic chaos in this day we fight definitely reminds me a lot of System. So Far So Good So What, the 2-1-2 combo. Great way to start off the record. 44 minutes is a melodic track that has Countdown to Extinction vibe to it. And to me, like I said, there are no weak tracks. Maybe hardest part of Letting Go, Seal with a Kiss is kind of a mediocre song, but it's still not bad. Head Crusher is a banger. But to me, my favorite tracks on this record are the last two, How the Story Ends and The Right to Go Insane. Fantastic album, and I was really happy when I first heard the first single, and when I got the album in full back in 2009. I listened to this one non-stop, and it grows every time I listen to it. So yeah, I think the playing, the songwriting, everything is top notch here. And it could even go to fantastic, to be honest, but for now it's gonna go in amazing tier. My favorite songs are How the Story Ends, The Right to Go Insane, and Head Crusher. Okay, next one. I'm gonna go with Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. Their debut record from 1985. And yeah, I have it at fantastic because I think it's heavily underrated record. They basically produced this album by themselves because they spent like half of the budget of $8,000 on drugs and alcohol. And the album obviously suffered because of it, but not as much as So Far So Good So What did. To me, this album is phenomenal. The musicianship is through the roof. I do really love both Chris Poland and Garcia Samuelson. They were both jazz fusion players before they joined Megadeth, and you can tell because their playing is different than your typical thrash metal band, and that's what set apart Megadeth from the other bands of the era. This album is complex, it's frantic at times and goes super hard, and from the get-go when you hear that ferocious opening riff on Last Rites Love to Death, you can tell that they wanted to prove that he's better than Metallica. He was fueled by vengeance and whatnot, fury, and you know, even to this day after 40 years he still holds a grudge against Metallica. But that aside, because that would take a whole another video talking about Megadeth versus Metallica and Dave's opinion on Metallica. To me, this album is better than Kill 'Em All. Maybe I'm in minority here, but that's just my opinion. I think this is an underrated record. Like I said, both Chris Poland and Garcia Samuelson and Dave Ellison, they all clicked here on this one, and they made a fantastic record with only one weak song in my opinion, and that is the only reason keeping it for perfection, to be honest, and that is the cover of These Boots. And if you listen to the remastered version of this record, These Boots is even hilarious because they censored all the curse words on the song, so it sounds even what the fuck am I listening to it. So I have the original album without the censorship, so that's the only weak song here. Mechanics maybe being the other one, because let's be real, I think the Four Horsemen is superior version even though they wrote the song, but it's, you know, it has faster tempo, but lyrics are dumb and it's missing that bridge section from Four Horsemen, which makes that song better in my opinion. But overall, for a debut record, it is one hell of a debut. I love it. My favorite tracks are Last Rites, Love to Death, Rattlehead, and the title track, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. Next one, also in fantastic tier. This one is also 5 stars for me if you watched my video on my favorite records of the 90s, but in the grander scheme of things, in Megadeth discography, I have to put it at fantastic. This is a follow-up to technical masterpiece that is Rust in Peace. Countdown to Extinction compared to Rust in Peace is more song focused. There are a bunch of great melodies and hooks, and this album really showcased Mustaine's ability to write catchy songs, and that is more than apparent from the get-go when Skin of My Teeth kicks in. And it's evident that the band changed the sound, made it appealing to wider audience, and it paid out since Countdown to Extinction became a big hit and one of their most commercially successful albums to date. There are still heavier, trashier songs on this record, like the closing one, Ashes in Your Mouth, and the overall musicianship is once again amazing. A bunch of great drum fills, solos, guitar licks, and riffs. The production is really fitting, and I enjoy the overall sound. I think it's a fantastic album from start to finish. My favorite songs are Countdown to Extinction, Skin on My Teeth, and High Speed Dirt. Okay, next one. Well, these three records are all going into perfection, and I'm gonna kick things off with Peace Sells But Who's Buying from 1986. And this is a classic record. It is a big step up production-wise and songwriting-wise compared to the debut. Even more complex songwriting, like in songs Wake Up Dead and Good Morning Black Friday. The production is much better than Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. This is the second album with the same lineup, so Gar Samuelson on drums, David Ellison on bass, Dave Mustaine on guitar, and Chris Poland on lead guitar. Dave gets political and darker on this one. The title track is a great example of that. That intro bass line is a classic. The most complex song on this record is definitely Good Morning Black Friday. Different tempo throughout, dark lyrics and ferocious riffs in the second half of the song. As on the debut, on the other hand, the reason it's not second or first is the cover of I Ain't Superstitious, which ain't bad, but kind of ruins the flow of this record. But to me, the highlight, and definitely one of my favorite Megadeth songs ever, is the closing track, My Last Words. The bass line is just so infectious, it's mesmerizing, and I think Dave Ellison did a fantastic job on it. It is one of their most underrated songs, and to tell you the truth, I think it's like in my top 5 Megadeth songs ever. I like the lyrics, I like everything about it, so I think Peace Sells in general, besides the cover, is perfect from top to bottom, and it's hard to pick only 3 songs, but if I have to pick 3 songs, it's gonna be My Last Words, Good Morning Black Friday, and Devil's Island. Okay, we have 2 more to go, and it was for a long time my favorite Megadeth record, but I have to be honest with myself. So yeah, my second favorite Megadeth record is Euthanasia from 1994. And besides the debut record, this to me is the most underrated Megadeth record. It basically takes what they've done with Countdown to Extinction and improve on that formula. In my opinion, I think it's even better in that regards. The tempo is much slower than on previous records. It's more melodic and darker than the Countdown to Extinction. The riffs are still heavy, as apparent on the opening track, Reckoning Day. The production is great, and I think this is Dave Mustaine's maybe best vocal performance on any album. He even hired a vocal coach to help him get to the higher notes as well, and this is the main reason I really love the album, is because of the atmosphere, the lyrics, the overall sound of the record suits me, and there is only one complaint I have about this one. It is length. I mean, it's the 90s, mid-90s, everything is long, and I think Black Curtains might be the weakest track here, kind of a filler track, but I still don't mind it. Anyway, my favorite tracks here are Addicted to Chaos, Train of Consequences, and Family Tree. Which leaves us to my favorite Megadeth record, and one of my favorite records of all time, and definitely my favorite thrash metal record, and that is Rust in Peace from 1990, the first album to feature the classic lineup of David Mustaine, Dave Ellison, Marty Friedman, and Nick Menza. This album is a pure technical masterclass. It combines the elements of classic thrash, heavy metal, technicality, and melodic hooks. The songs are crafted with care, and the bands, like Mustaine said multiple times, were firing off on all cylinders. Dual guitar combo of Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman on this album is magical. Blistering solos, especially on Hangar 18. But it's not just guitars. Both David Ellison and Nick Menza did a phenomenal job on here, especially Nick Menza especially on the closing track, Rust in Peace. And I think Marty said in some of the interviews that that song is one of his favorites from the record, which is interesting. I thought it was maybe Tornado of Souls because of the epic solo that he did. What made me love this album, it is complexion, technicality, and how textured the guitar work is. Even the lyrics are really good here. So yeah, Rust in Peace, obviously my choice, 10 out of 10 record. There are no bad songs here. Even Down Patrol I think is great. And it was really hard to pick 3 songs, but I have to go with Hangar 18, Holy Wars, and 5 Magics as my favorite songs. So yeah, this was a bit short and I did not go into detail about any of these records. In particular, this is my tier list of Megadeth albums, so let me know in the comments down below what you think of it, what is your favorite record, what is your least favorite. Thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next one.